Welcome to Interviewing Aliens. I'm Jeff, aka Awake,
And I'm Tiffany, aka Tiffany.
and today we are joined by someone who fully embodies the fusion of art, intuition, and the mystical, Melissa Williams. Not only is she an accomplished artist and mystic, deeply engrossed in the world of creative energetics and the divine, but Melissa also possesses a unique gift that has touched many in our community: psychic communication, particularly with animals. She has worked closely with members of our community, bridging the gap between humans and their beloved pets, offering insights and deepening the bonds that they share. Melissa's perspective on life is refreshing and profound. She views life as a vast canvas, with reality being the vibrant colors she uses to paint her masterpieces. Guided by her intuition, she ventures off the beaten path, exploring unknown realms and seeing life as a form of art in itself. Through her work, she aids individuals in discovering their next steps, helping them manifest their experiences that they yearn for. With a firm belief that magic and enchantment are omnipresent, she poses a thought provoking question to all of us. Are we truly seeing the wonder that surrounds us? Join us as we delve into Melissa's captivating world, exploring the intersections of art, intuition, and psychic communication, and the mysteries of the universe. Melissa, thank you so much for joining us today.
I had such a hard time staying quiet the whole time. I was like, damn, I need y'all to write my artist bios and my artist statements and my applications.
You can use us for a reference anytime, my friend.
Ugh,
Absolutely.
what a glowing introduction.
My
I
artistic
love it.
mystic. I am absolutely fangirling, my friend.
Thank you so much for having me. This is like such a sweet intersection.
You were actually requested by our very first guest, Bianca Rowland. When we asked who she'd like to see in the podcast, you were the name that she chose.
Oh wow. Oh, that's even
Yeah.
more exciting. I did know ahead of time that I got like a little nudge from the community, but I didn't know that it was Bianca, and that's even cooler because it's, I mean, I'm always looking to build more artist community, and the fact that it was another artist whose work I admire is like spirit is giving jazz hands. Jazz
Jazz hands.
hands.
Well, let's talk a lot about you. Can you tell us about your awakening story, or were you just born this absolutely mystical and magical?
Yeah, I have an awakening story that's definitely like a serpentine path. Spirit's showing like a twisting river. Um, so I was definitely came in very intuitive. I was a psychic child, and I had like prophetic dreams and definitely knew stuff about people that I just thought other people knew about each other. And I went through most of my early years just having information that like I didn't realize didn't make sense to other people. I'm a little neurodivergent, and I was like, yeah, you're just reacting how you're reacting because it's like cool that we know things about each other. Not because I didn't realize that it was a gift. And so I finally started to realize that there was something there that was unique to me when I was a teenager. And I was actually in a very unfortunate relationship, but within this relationship, this man in high school reflected to me like some of the gifts that I have, and it was through like reading him and talking to a partner that I realized that I was able to like offer a mirror that other people didn't have access to. So through that relationship and kind of the winding pathway, and teenage years, like I lost some of that connection,
Mhm.
and but was really still making decisions from a very intuitive place. I had this inner knowing that I regularly had access to, and I was able to navigate spaces in a way that I didn't realize. I like the base and foundation of it was like gut reactions and inner knowing. And I took kind of a traditional, very academic path, and got an art degree. And it was after the intensity of college graduation and having some space that I started interacting with magic in a way that was a lot more intentional and like seeking information and realizing that like I was magic and that I was actually experiencing magic and that I had like access to a realm that uh, other people don't as easily. Because I really do believe that everyone has access to what I have access to. I think it's just it's a muscle, but I think I came in with a little more muscle tone.
So how did your awakening story bring you to the Awakening OD community that we so love and cherish?
Yeah, I definitely I came in through the Ari Shafir Meth P comedy special pipeline. Um, I have a partner who is very into comedy and indie comedy, and um, I think that he had seen the special and was like, "Oh, Melissa will like this," and we watched it together. So him watching it for a second time, like it was that important to him that I see this special. And I just taking like a step back, I love the web that we're all a part of that was created to get me to this point. Like I had to have a partner that had been into comedy for years, that was into it enough that he was watching stand-up comedy on YouTube in his spare time. And just like that pipeline that funneled me into the
Hmm.
space, I think it's like
Hmm.
uh it's like it has like this like bubbliness to it. It's like the silliness. And
Hmm.
I think how many like profound things happen to us that are just like so silly, silly little humans.
Hmm.
And so I found Soberish because I was like, wow, I like this person's energy, and I found Soberish and like rapidly consumed it. I was doing like probably about an hour at least of driving every day in 2017, and once Soberish kind of moved from that space to AOD, I became part of the Patreon. And then it took me a while, I think, to get onto the Discord, but I've been pretty married to the Discord since joining it, I think in 2020, I think late 2020.
Hmm.
Yeah,
And look at us now.
I know.
How would
Yeah,
you
yeah.
describe our community? If there might be some listeners that aren't familiar with what Awakening OD in that community is, so how would you describe it in your own words?
Yeah, for me, it was an opportunity and a space to say things or type things out that I didn't have community and space in person to talk about.
Hmm.
Um, and through that, I mean, I really came into my client and coaching business through our Discord community. So I
Hmm.
had been doing readings for friends, but I hadn't done really many readings for strangers at that point. Kind of in 2020, I had recommendations coming to me, but most of it were friends, and I started doing trades and free readings for people in our community. And
Hmm.
there's something really special about doing work just because you want to do it. And I really found
Hmm.
that every reading that I did, or if I just answered questions that people had, um, sometimes at 2 a.m., sometimes first thing when you wake up in the morning, like that flow that you can drop
Mm-hmm.
into, the gifts that are offered from doing things for free were just immense for me. Like Spirit is showing this like big pile that I would get to walk up to, and I just got to like pick up a gem. So I picked up and like learned all these skills through having a safe space to do readings for people. And I'm in human design, I'm a manifesting generator, and I'm the aura type that likes to taste test things and respond to things. So, like, my bread
Mm-hmm.
and butter is answering people's questions. Like, somebody answers a question for me, and I mean, somebody asks me a question, and I just like, I immediately have the answer. Like, it feels so juicy. And in the way that, like, Virgo rising, we just have like access to this encyclopedia, but oftentimes, like, you need something to initiate the like opening of the vault. And for me, that is just like people asking me questions.
I really vibe with that. I feel the same way. Like I have the hardest time sitting down and coming up with my own questions when I'm working with my guides. But if somebody asks me a question, I start pulling cards. It just feels correct. It's really interesting how the like energy exchange process in our community works. Like I feel consistent, positive reactions to both what I'm putting out there and what I'm receiving from other people. Like I don't think I've ever gotten a reading that I didn't vibe with from this group, and that's not true in other situations. It's really interesting what, like-minded, similar vibration people can do when they get together.
Yeah, and I really think about the level of when you're exploring something, and this is the beauty of the internet. When you're exploring something that you're really into, but maybe you feel shy about, or maybe you've had experiences where you don't feel like you can fully speak your truth in person because there is a feeling of like I'm going to get burned at the stake. Like having an
Mm-hmm.
online community where you can read something and like wait 5 minutes or wait a day or a week or whatever and respond to it when your energy lights up about it, like
Mm-hmm.
having that space, like the ether container that is the internet, is one of the most beautiful things about this age. Like the gift, to me, that is just like a gift that keeps on giving.
Absolutely. I think it's a common story that a lot of us came to this place without an outlet in our 3D lives, and we found safety and community amongst this group of weirdos who follow this former meth addicted comedian, and it's been absolutely life changing for me, um, especially getting to know you. So, if you want to talk about some of your art, moving from the artist, let's move into the artistic mystic part of it all. Tell us about your art.
Yeah, that's funny because it really relates to like using my voice and finding my voice, which has always been true for my artistic practice. Like sometimes my artistic practice has known things about me before I've uh, consciously known them. And the project that I'm working on right now is definitely one of those things. I started it in 2020, and it's called Portals, and it's definitely an access point into intuition and inner knowing. I had become fascinated with some artists and ways of making work that involve using what's called like speed lights or strobes, which are basically just big, powerful lights that emit like a lot of light at once. Like they're big, like flashes. And using basically colored film, like colored plastic, they're called colored gels, over the lights, and it was they were a birthday present in 2020, and my birthday's in February. I'm a super extra 0 degree Pisces, of course,
Woohoo!
and
Absolutely. If that doesn't line up, I don't know what does.
yeah, yeah, Pisces stellium over here for
Oh
sure.
my God,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. uh, and so pandemic hits, and the art practice turns into, okay, what can I, like, what do I have access to? Like, in the true way of artists solving problems, like, what do I have access to? And I had access to a lot of land and a lot of outdoor exploration because I was living in Southern Oregon at the time. My partner and I moved to kind of the Ashland, Grants Pass region to live with the trees. We wanted to be like mountain people.
Mm.
And what a blessing that was, being in the pandemic and being able to just go into the middle of nowhere where there were no other humans. And so I started taking these big flashlights with different colors out on walks in nature. And it was kind of the only place that my brain would shut up and I could like access flow. Like it was the only space that really felt safe for me. And in that safety, I started realizing that when I was going on walks, I was having intuitive, like visceral in like the gut specifically reactions to the spaces that I was in. And so I started going, oh, okay, this space feels good. Like it must be time to make a photo here. And I would pull out my little booklet of plastic colors, basically, and I would like flip through them. And when my body would go like, yes, I would just, okay, like whatever that color is. I would put it over my lights and kind of document the area. And the longer I did this, the more I realized that I was creating access points for me to be in conversation with my subconscious and with my intuitive self. And this was before I started doing readings for other people. I was starting to read tarot, but I was just sort of dabbling. So this was really the foundation of, I guess, what I think of as my career. If I was going to have a career title, it would be like access point. So this was like the beginning of Melissa being a walking portal person. And this project has resulted in me creating prints that are pretty large, that are these very surreal, colorful landscapes that people get to interact with as this intuitive, subjective color experience. And you're almost like stepping into them because they're very immersive
Mm-hmm.
landscapes.
Mm-hmm.
And standing in front of them, people talk about the kind of like relaxation and like opening sensation that the body responds with, and
Mm-hmm.
how much being in that space of relaxation can open up like the messages that need to come through. And I'm never sure how, I mean, within our community, it's people can access that information a little bit more directly. But even if people who maybe don't have a spiritual path yet or are just coming into it, like even just accessing ways of being and feelings that are what they're aiming for, like that is so important to me. Like giving people experiences through art where they're starting to feel the way that they want to feel is like one of my life's missions, like being a portal and providing people with a way to access things is just like, that just feels like so juicy and right for
Mm.
me.
I love that.
I know I've connected with your art several times since we've met, and it's quite an experience because the more you kind of sit and meditate with it, it just the connection is there, and it helps you explore yourself and the realms that you created. So thank you. It's beautiful. And of course, we'll have some of your art up for people to view as well after we post this, so other people
Cool.
can enjoy and experience your beautiful pieces.
Yeah, Spirit is nudging me to talk a little bit about because color theory was like one of the things that brought me to wanting to work with color, um, and color theory and like color therapy. So the ability to interact with color uh, and have it change biology. I mean, there's been studies done about being in certain colored rooms and how that affects the mood, and bathing in certain colored lights and how that affects healing in the body and stuff. And um, the nudge that I got was like how powerful it is, even if someone like hates my work because they hate the color orange. Like it is so powerful to be able to sit in your body and go like the color orange disgusts me. Like I absolutely can't stand the color orange. And like having a way to viscerally communicate with like the tastes in the body about what you like and dislike in your reality is one of the first steps in being able to manifest and create what you want.
Hmm. Yeah, that's the trick. Know what you want. If Jessica taught me one thing, it's that you got to know what you want.
And I really think like how important it is for the body to be on board, because we
Yeah.
think we know what we want in the mental space, but the mental space has access to so much information that we go like, "Oh yeah, that's a good idea over there. Like I like that idea over there." But there's the separation between I like that idea and then my entire being is on board with this.
This feels good. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so often I think we try to create from the space of I want a bunch of money, or the mental space goes I want a bunch of money. Then you check in with the body, and the body's like, actually, I just want enough money to be able to like go tubing down the Colorado River. And if you realize that, oh, what I actually want is, let's say, 2 grand to go on this trip, then you have an access point of like, that's the amount of money that I want and that I need right now. It's not necessarily about, I want to have $1 million so that I just have enough money forever. It's like, what do I need right now? Because I'm getting the nudge of like stepping stones. Like, how often manifestation is creating access points and stepping stones instead of creating the whole lump sum at once.
Absolutely. I always say manifest the experience and the money will come along with it. But I think you're right. It's beautiful.
I also think going back to your thing about the color orange and people, if you sit there and get to engage with that feeling, I think a lot of times we like encounter something that turns us off or that we don't enjoy, and we just so quickly get as far away from it as possible instead of sitting there in that feeling and really like reflecting on that and the reason why, where are we feeling that in our body, why are we feeling that in our body. And I feel like there's a lot of value in taking the time to do that, especially when it comes to art. And I know when I go to a museum or a gallery, um, if I see something I don't like, I may just scurry along to whatever is next, but when you do sit down and really take the time to look at what it is, I'm thinking particularly of a Hieronymus Bosch painting I saw at, I think, the Indianapolis Museum of Art, um, and just thinking, oh, this is kind of grotesque to me. Why am I so revolted by this? Why do I want to look away? And sitting there and thinking about those feelings and exploring the topics and whatever Bosch was trying to project there. It was a good moment for me in the end.
Yeah, so I'm getting the nudge. This is something that happened to me today. I like learned a new mechanism of like identifying I'm gonna label it as unpleasant because I really don't think of things as like good and bad, like uncomfortable or like unpleasant feeling. And noticing it in my body and then being able to put it in front of me just enough that it's still in my awareness. Like I'm not pushing it out of the like energetic field, but like pulling it out and being able to put it in front of me so that I can talk to it and understand what it is that like the message that it's trying to relay. Because oftentimes when you don't like something, there's something that's really like empowering there. So what I'll give the example of what happened earlier. I had like encountered someone's energy online and like didn't like the vibe, but I kept doing this thing where I was just like pushing that vibe away, and it kept coming back, and I was like, why am I like drawing this to myself over and over again? Like not really, of course, you know, we all miss the messages sometimes, not really realizing like there's a little like nugget that's here. And so I kind of checked in with my body. My body wanted me to like move it in front of myself and kind of give it a little bit of form, and it kind of turned into like a, actually it was orange. That's funny that I was talking about not liking orange. And so it was kind of this like orange blobby thing. And when I started talking to it, it was like just acknowledge that like this type of energy makes you uncomfortable. Like it's not trying to make you experience something unpleasant. It just wants you to acknowledge that like this energy is not your cup of tea and it makes you uncomfortable. And as soon as I did, it was like, okay, like you there, yep, you just like built another, you got like some more information about what your personal taste is and about what you personally enjoy. And it's like it was like building the portfolio of like what I enjoy, don't enjoy. And of course that continues to evolve as you go along in life, but sometimes we think that if we let something in, it's going to cause more discomfort. But over and over and over again, when I work with clients and when I let things in, I realize that I'm just getting more definition and information about who I am and what I'm doing. And then like, it's empowering because you've just created, it's like you've just added another puzzle piece to the big puzzle piece that is your life. Like as if your life is a big puzzle scene, like it's this big beautiful the image that's coming up is like a garden, like it's a big like sacred garden, and you've just like added another little corner to your puzzle piece, and now you can like see more of the image that is like your essence, and that is you.
Oh, it's beautiful. I love the garden imagery. I hear you talking, speaking and saying you feel a nudge, and you see a vision. And I know that connection with spirit is very individual and in that aspect. How do you feel can you tell us about your connection with spirit? Is it, hearing, sound, taste, smell, knowing, is it that kind of thing, or is it just kind of a full body experience for you?
um Definitely all of the above. I'm all of the clairs. I probably can't even list them: clairaudient, clairvoyant, clairsentient.
Right.
Yeah, whichever the, I never remember how to say the one that's smell. That one's rare. That one's more rare for me, but it does happen sometimes. But it is a full body experience because the body is our subconscious. So like when books like The Body Keeps the Score become popular and people are talking about energy psychology and learning about the messages of the body, like the energetic body is so connected to spirit and to the spirit plane. Oh, okay. So spirit's acknowledging that there are probably a lot of people listening that are interested in readings and wanting to do readings, and there's a, you don't need to like sacrifice your body to like get information for other people.
Can you expand on that thought for us?
Yeah. What is what question do you have about that?
When you say expend your own body, what do you mean by that?
There's this way when you're doing readings that you can develop what I would call like the hollow bone, where you're setting aside your energy to read the other person's energy with your body, and that's very taxing. That's something that you can do, and there is a long tradition within indigenous cultures and indigenous healers of um, reading other people's energy with your body so that you are experiencing what the other person is experiencing. And I think it is extremely effective, and it's also requires another level of energetic cleansing that I think most people have difficulty doing. And I say that in part because I have difficulty cleansing energetically on that level. So I tend to go with the receiving information through like the various clairs instead of saying like, give me the feelings that they're feeling in their body. Like it's almost like, what level of permeable sponge do you want to be? So I do allow a certain amount of it in, but Spirit is saying that I allow probably 10% of it in so that I'm able to identify, okay, like we're working with the heart space, or,
Okay.
Various parts of the body represent different uh, energetic principles. So I'm being drawn to like the right hand. The right hand is like very masculine, and it is involved with the power of like being able to create structure and being able to um like to give. And if there is a lot of sensation in that area and Spirit's wanting to check in with that area, like how much you have to decide for yourself how much it serves you to be able to feel with intensity what that other person is feeling. Because oftentimes for me, I can receive the messages feeling a very small amount of that sensation, like basically just being able to be drawn to like that part of the body and then receiving the information. So I think it is a personal preference, but I think that there's just a little bit of like cautionary, like you don't need to take on other people's energy to be able to read their energy.
Yeah, that's good advice.
Yeah, absolutely.
It also kind of fits along with kind of a theme this past week of keeping your energy clear and doing that good protective work. You don't want to invite anything in that you're not prepared for and ready for. So I think that's good advice for starting out with some of these energies, is to take it slow, don't take too much in, make sure you're doing what you can handle.
Yeah, and I definitely think that I'm in the camp of like whatever arrives you're ready for, but there does need to be an awareness of, am I a person that puts my hand fully on the hot stove, and am I conscious of when I'm choosing to do that? Because I am one of those people. I am definitely what's that? A bunch of us in this community have this in our human design chart. It's like the Phoenix rising Phoenix something cross that's in human design.
The incarnation cross of the phoenix.
Yes.
Hmm.
And so Spirit is nudging me about like, how much are we choosing? Like you have the option to choose the lessons that you're learning. And I mean, in regards to the topic we're talking about, like, do you want to choose the lesson of inviting a lot of other people's energy into your body, and what would be, the purpose of doing that? Because you can totally do that and you can totally go down the path of learning like the most stellar energetic cleansing and boundaries. But is that the method with you want to learn that process?
Right.
Right.
There are some methods that are more difficult than others. So
That's that F around and find out track, you know what I mean?
right.
Hmm. Yes.
You offer so many beautiful. I've seen you post things in the Discord, and then you got your website up and running, which of course we'll have available for everyone. Um, you have just like some really fun, different kinds of offerings. I got to experience what is the cheerleading, the cosmic cheerleader kind of effect. What are some of your favorite offerings that you've put out there for folks?
Yeah, I do love being a cosmic cheerleader. That is very fun. And that's one of I usually do that in little 30-minute uh segments, but I'm very flexible with clients. Like I do really love a client that is like, I like your vibe. Let's like custom build something for me. Um, but with kind of that like the cosmic cheerleader offer, it's really like intuitive coaching, intuitive abilities coaching, and that one is so fun because in the way that I am an access point for people, we're really like building like bridges and pathways for whoever it is to experience more of an intuitive flow. And that one is pure magic because I'm just sitting there and being a mirror to and affirming their magical abilities and magical experiences. And um it's funny because oftentimes this is very connected to doing like animal communication and animal reading. So like 99% of the time that I do those kind of coaching sessions with clients, people's animals will uh show up because
As Vinny just jumped up in my laugh, just so you
ah
know.
yes, 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 100%. Um yeah, spirit is nudging me about how much like animals are one of the beautiful things about them is that we are their caretakers in this like 3D plane, but when you start communicating with them on a more etheric level, like they're also our guides and they have so much
Hmm.
information. Like I think almost every single animal communication reading that I do with people, they have so many ideas and things to offer up to their owner and so many ideas about what the owner can be doing to
Hmm.
create what they want, and they like there's so much insight and wisdom.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I've had the opportunity to work with you a few times for my own little puppy Vinny, and it's just funny he hopped up here right before I wanted to ask these questions because it is absolutely incredible uh, being able to have that connection and hear it in his voice through you. I mean, it's just been beautiful, and I know a lot of us in our group have worked with you with this practice, and it's amazing.
And I think it's so funny that I actually I don't advertise that I do animal communication. When people find me and maybe people are recommended to me, I do them. And it's funny how much it's like the animals have decided that this is something that I'm doing. Because sincerely, it's not on my website. I don't talk about it on social media. But I I continue to get the opportunity to do readings for animals, and I think that I love the sassiness that like it's been decided for me, just like how animals will choose their owners and decide that like, oh no, you're like I'm coming home with you. Like you're mine now. And I feel that connection with them. And just like how the level of like sass and amusement that they have, like their personalities they have more personality than 90% of people's like spirit guides that I talk to.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
I mean, guides have a lot of really beautiful information and insight and wisdom, and they do crack jokes. And I mean, my relationship with spirit is very full of, uh, I would say charisma. Spirit is very charismatic because, like, fully, I'm a person that, like, if you're not making me laugh, like, I'm not going to be able to, like, listen to you very well.
Exactly.
And I love that, like, the sense of humor that animals have.
They're very much here on the physical plane with us as well, so they have you know, they have to deal with our crap as much as the guides do, so I love it.
And I know I have pointed at least 3 people your direction in the AOD server. I don't know
Absolutely.
why. I feel like I'm always like present online when somebody mentions that they need somebody that can talk to animals. I'm like, oh, I know somebody.
I love a spirit was just showing a like somebody has to be there to like throw Melissa the ball, otherwise she's not gonna do it. Like, yeah, accurate. Yeah, it was like a frisbee too. It was like a frisbee that was just being thrown to me. I'm like, oh my god, okay, yes. Yeah, yeah, and I mean, I really do enjoy doing it. And I think that it's beautiful to see just the interconnected web and like the cycle of the things that we give attention and love to, like taking care of us. Like that's true in any energetic sense, but with animals especially, like that relationship is like uh it's unlike anything else that I've encountered in like an energetic sense, you know. And I mean,
Yeah,
I can talk to anybody's higher self or their spirit guides and stuff, but that relationship is another kind of special because they are like here in the 3D.
yeah. I can't think of any other kind of energy exchange with a creature or being that's more instant than that you have with your pet. Like the moment you give your energy and attention to them, they're ready to give it back to you. It's a really like it makes me wish that it could be more like that, with the people that I run into on the daily. Like if we could just get over the anxiety and the shame of the love that we could feel for each other, like you can have with these animals so freely that you just be able to get so much more done.
hmm It's like watching people at a party when they're like interacting with each other, and then, a dog or a cat walks into the room and everyone just melts all over the dog. Like, if we could just do that with each other, if we could just let
Right.
go and be all mushy with each other the way we are with you know, a sweet little angel walking in the room, life would be a whole lot different, wouldn't
Yeah,
it?
just imagine if every time you walked into the room, everyone turned to you and went, "Oh, yes, this is great. Get over here, Tiff. Let's do it."
That is kind of the vibe of our community for
It's
sure.
true. It's
Especially
true.
when we all get together in person. It's just like, oh my God, you're here. Oh, let me love you.
Yeah.
But you've got your cosmic cheerleader. You help people with their gifts. You help people connect with their higher selves and their guides. What are some other things that you've been playing with lately? And I saw some speak of the Akashic.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's funny. That's another funny thing that I don't advertise that I do. Um, I came to the Akashic uh, because I needed a way to read for myself initially. So when you are someone that's very intuitive, but you're a human. Obviously, we're all, if you're listening to this, you're probably a human. you're you're attached to what's going on in your 3D reality to such an extent that sometimes you need access points that are a little bit more mysterious and that your mind perceives that you don't have control over. So I think of myself as an oracle for my clients. I'm not a future teller, but my oracular gifts lie in being able to tell people the processes that they can interact with and the energy that they can embody to create what they want. But when I need oracular energy and I want to do it for myself, the Akashic Records are one of the best options. I use the prayer that Louise Howe, I think is her name. If you want me to send it to you guys, we can put it in the show notes.
Sure.
She developed and teaches people. I think she actually does whole classes. I'm not sure how I even stumbled upon it, but I use that prayer to access the Akashic Records, and I can physically feel whether I'm doing it for myself or with the other person, um, like levels of dropping in. So you repeat it. It's three different stanzas, and you read parts of it aloud and parts of it in your head. And by the time you reach the end of it, um, there's this like it feels like a bubble of air that's like going kind of like around your head and like over your body and over your shoulders. And it's almost as if, I mean, they talk about it as being like the cosmic record keeper space or like the cosmic library. And it's almost as if you're in like an old library inside of like an abbey or something. Like it
Mm.
has this like stillness in the air. It has this like mystery feeling to it in a way that it might be because I haven't studied it very much and I don't plan to because everybody needs a little like mystery in their life. But uh it's interesting because the in the Akashic record world, the entities that you're communicating with are called the lords of the records, and so they're like the record keepers, like the I think of them as like archivists, and they speak in very otherworldly funny phrasing. Like it's kind of poetic, you can feel that it's not totally human. uh they sometimes speak in like funny little rhymes. It's not riddles, but it's it genuinely sounds like you're accessing something that has already been written, which is like the idea of the Akashic records. But I find it fascinating that you can access it through the language, even that they're communicating with. That it has this like this is what's happening, this is what's going to happen kind of vibe. Um, and it's it's wonderful because I think so many of us, when we are really needing outside input for something that feels very sensitive and feels like we want to bring it to something that is larger than us, I think that you can 100% do that in community. And with the Akashic records, you're also getting this layer of like cosmic unconditional love that
Mm.
I don't think a lot of us have experienced because of the vastness of the feeling. Like I think you can 100% experience that with other readers and coaches and stuff, but it has this like unconditional love that feels like timeless and feels
Mhm.
effortless. And like every time they talk to me, and let me think, when I do readings for other people, also, they address you immediately with like such terms of affection. Like, I think almost every time I do a reading for myself, they start it with, oh, loved one. And
Mm.
like the outpouring of love and understanding for what you're going through and the questions that you have, like, there's this feeling of like understanding of the human experience, but because you're not accessing something that is very human feeling, there's like this lack of judgment, almost as if like there's so much space that it's like literally no matter what you do, no matter what you're asking about, like they're just thrilled that you're like up in the library, like looking up stuff. And I just think that's so comforting and so beautiful.
It's really interesting. What you're describing there is kind of similar to what I experienced in Jonathan Wheeler, a Rainbow Goth guy's class. At the end of his deathwork journey, you end up in kind of a temple slash library kind of setting. Um, and I get very similar vibes from, whatever entities I'm interacting with there. This feeling of, just happy that you're there and you're wanting to learn, and excitement to share what information they have, and
Mm,
like a compassion and an understanding for, you know how limited we are as humans in our understanding and our ability to, you know absorb and learn quickly, like just the patience that they have. um,
mhm.
I think that's really interesting parallel. I almost wonder if maybe that is like a Akashic adjacent kind of realm.
I sometimes think that, not sometimes, I totally think that people's guides are in cahoots with the Akashic records, because
Mhm.
I have felt like I was accessing the information that I was channeling, felt like the guides were accessing information from the Akashic records. And I do think Spirit just said Song of the Universe. I do think that there's this way that we access when we tap into information and we're coming from this space of curiosity, that we're accessing something that is more like quantum in the Song of the Universe. Like it has that quantum web feeling and that
Yeah.
understanding feeling, and that like the information is coming from an area that is without space and time. And so without space and time, there's so much understanding and so much peace that's available, because there's not the implied pressure of time, and I'm, not doing things quick enough, or I'm not doing it correctly. Like that doesn't exist when you either zoom in really far or zoom out really far, when in regards to like energy and kind of quantum space.
Yeah. Yeah.
I had a pretty transformative experience just Monday night, I think. What is time? Where I do this ritual temple with one of our community members named Pound Cake Daniel. And I just knew I needed to go to temple. It's kind of a safe container space, where you open up the gates and, it's just a protective space to just practice any kind of magic in any sense, or just commune with spirit. But I knew I needed to go, and I went in, and the part of the process is to go through the library. And I went through, and I was like, oh, I have to come back here. And I went to like finish my ritual, and then was immediately pulled back into the library with where I then like I felt like I had a very intense spirit meeting, So it's wild that you know I never would have thought of it as an Akashic experience, but it definitely resonates.
Library sinks.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because I really think like how much is the Akashic just like a framework and understanding for like the human mind to access like timeless
Yeah,
information, like to access information outside of space and time. Like I don't think that it's its own separate thing. I think it's a
yeah,
construct that like enables our mind to interact with something that
yeah.
yeah, like it's like a hat that we're putting on that like okay, this makes
Yep,
sense. Like I can this is a
yep.
container that makes sense to my brain and so then the brain like lets it happen because I mean I talk so much about that with clients in manifestation. It's like creating the container that you need to function within in order to accomplish what you want to create and how much like because safety is the foundation of being able to create movement in your life like how much having some kind of container that makes sense to you is a way to yeah create what you want.
Yeah, and it was almost like I was able to tap into other timelines or past lives of some sort. There was a lot of information being given to me in that space. So yeah, yeah, it's something I want to definitely dive into more. So I might be in touch with you after this to explore that more.
Yeah, I would I've helped some people sort of like Spirit's so funny. Spirit just said backup bitch. I've been like the backup person for people learning to access their Akashic records. Like I can be there with the person and guide them through accessing it themselves.
Hmm.
Um, and I think that that is so fun because it's just sort of like having a psychic body double with you while you're learning to do something.
Body double. Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
I like to think of the Akashic Records as like a library of Babel kind of idea, where like literally everything is there and anyone can access it, but figuring out how to find the information that's actually relevant to your life is where it takes like a skilled librarian. So I feel like I don't know that I'm meant to be that person, but it's really nice to know there are people like you out there who have put in the time and effort and learned this cosmic Dewey Decimal System to figure out, where my information is when I need access to it. So it's really appreciated that you're doing the work out there.
The
Yeah,
divine Dewey
definitely.
Decimal System. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. Yeah, and spirit is like just acknowledging that oh, this is probably an important part of my awakening story actually. That the reason that I have access is I guess I think twofold. One being that I became very interested and dedicated in alchemizing trauma because I was really uh, ready to not live with the heaviness that I was living with. And there's so many masters that talk about how working through enlightening mm, the burden of trauma and the energy of trauma from the body, how much that creates space to access intuitive wisdom. Um, and that by doing that, you're freeing up so much more space in the energetic body that it's like you're able to answer the phone because then there's space within the energetic body to literally like to pick up the phone. Um, and also that a lot of being able to do stuff like this is just being curious and brave enough to try and know
Hmm.
that like it's okay for things to not make sense. Like there was probably I mean there was months and months of me dabbling with stuff like this that was like okay, I'm just trusting like I this doesn't make any sense why this is working, but it's working. So I'm just going to keep trusting and I love the idea of building mini contracts with yourself and continuing to check in and so an example of that would be like for the next day I'm going to see what unfolds when I invite my intuitive body to give me messages. And then, at the end of that day, or, if you want to do it the next day, sitting down with yourself for a few minutes and reflecting on what that invitation brought you. And when you do that, you start to see the connections of like, oh, I invited that energy in, and I was able to, for some reason, like sending out an important email is what's coming up. Maybe there's somebody that's thinking about this. Usually that's what happens. Somebody's energy popped in. But there's some kind of important thing that you need to do, and you've been putting it off, and all of a sudden, you had invited that energy in, and that day it was like the things clicked into place, and then you reflect on it later and you're like, oh, well, that was very stagnant before I made this mini contract with myself, and making that mini contract clearly created the container that I needed to receive whatever energy it was to like move forward with this thing. So a lot of being able to be psychic is being kind of brave and curious and silly enough to trust your own experience.
Yeah, I like
I
that.
feel like delusion's the name of the game there. You just started off, you just believe, you got to believe that it is. I love it.
And even like there's the call of like, if believing is too far of a step, then being willing to receive evidence is a great
Hmm.
step, because our minds do work off of where's the evidence to support that this is real. And it doesn't have to be like I asked for a sign and then, like a bird appeared in front of me magically. Like the human mind is spongy enough that evidence can be more fluid. It doesn't have to be like very rigid and literal, but being willing to experience evidence can be like a really good first step. Because oftentimes creating belief, like you're not going to be able to create belief if you genuinely don't believe. But if you're curious enough to see like, oh, let's see what happens, like the see what happens vibe is very powerful.
Oh yeah, yeah. Curiosity is a powerful fire starter for magic. Being open to an idea can often be enough to ignite something.
Absolutely. Well, what are some things that you're focusing on right now in your spiritual practice, in your daily life? What's a day in the life of Melissa look like right now?
Yeah. Ooh, day in the life. um One of the things that I'm really interested in right now, which it's funny that it's already come up so much, it's clearly on my mind, is balancing masculine and feminine in the way that masculine creates containers for you to then show up and be in your flow. So Spirit is asking about schedules and stuff. So like there's a lot of opposition right now because we're in a new age. We're in a new, I love saying we're in a new world. It sounds so dramatic. We're in a new world.
Hmm.
And that new world has brought people a lot of flow energy, and people have experienced the magic of flow for the first time in the last 3 years. But now I think we're really being called to introduce some structure to the flow so that flow can continue to happen, but that it creates more momentum and more moving forward. So Spirit earlier today was asking me like, because I'm just really getting into a schedule that I'm like, oh, I like this thing called schedule. And Spirit was asking me about like the perceptions that I have around schedules before committing to the schedule, before being curious about the schedule, was like, I'm going to get so bored if I'm doing the same schedule every day. Like, why would I want to do that? And now that I'm showing up in the schedule more, spirit is like the mental space was the one that was opposing the schedule. The in reality, having a schedule creates this like space for the energy to show up and experience itself because it knows what it's doing. So I'm thinking about it in let's say you're making a painting, and flowing energy might just be like, oh, let's just like put some paint on the canvas and see what happens, which has value. Um, but when you're wanting to create something more specific, you need to choose like a color palette. So the color palette would be the structure, and it would dictate, okay, maybe I'm going to do something monochromatic and I'm going to work all in cool tones. I'm going to work all in blues. And so then you create the structure of like, I'm working with blue. Like I'm really going to explore like what blue is. And you're able to go into like the depths of what that experience is so much farther because you've created spirit is showing like a column or like a tunnel to like go into and like experience and explore, versus if you're just showing up and going like, oh, I'm just gonna like see what's in this entire space. There's this way where we just show up and like fiddle around over here and fiddle around over there, and that is totally valuable. But having direction for me right now has this level of satisfaction that I hadn't experienced in a while, because I was really just like, I was like having fun mucking around in the mud, and now I'm like, oh, let's like explore this little patch of mud over here. And then it's like, oh, I start to like notice all of the like flora and fauna that's like in this little patch over here, and I start to discover like the little creatures, whereas before I was missing all of that because the flow was just like, oh, well, now it's time to go over here and like look at this other surface. So it's kind of a like mechanisms of diving deeper into specificity with a little bit of like planning sprinkled in.
I love it. I love the concept of the balancing the divine and masculine and feminine because it goes so much farther than gender in any sense. It's there's so much concept to it that once you start uh, really diving deep into that, it's everywhere. It's all around us. It's beautiful. Well, I wanted to move into a space with spirit to see if you had any message for the community and the collective coming through tonight.
Yeah, I oftentimes do this before I do readings with people. I'll pull a card to kind of set the tone and give us some background story. Um, Give me just a moment and I'm gonna pull out the little juicy pieces of this description. So there's this interesting energy in the collective right now. Okay, Spirit's wanting me to explain this first. That many of us are waking up to our ability to hear what people are saying underneath their words. It's like all of a sudden we've gained access to the subtext of the conversations that we're having. And Spirit is showing how the auric field, oftentimes the things that we're least aware of are the farthest away from us in our field, but that means that other people are able to see that information sometimes before we do, because it is literally people interact mostly with like the outside of our energetic field. And so there's this call to compassion and also being aware that right now is a time of giving each other permission to Spirit is kind of talking to me. Hold on. Okay, so like giving each other permission to be read and read one another with like sensitivity and with clarity. So Spirit is saying, I don't know that much about astrology. That's like one of my least informed areas in the like divinatory arts. But some of the transits that are going on are really enabling us to see each other and our community more clearly. And so there's like this call to interacting with people in a way that honors that we get to be mirrors for one another, and that is like a sacred act, and that is something that we can do for those that we are like closest with in a way that is like safe and very gentle, and noticing that there's going to be like more opportunities to do that and to receive that. And the reason this is so important is that like having someone that you trust be able to hand you something about yourself is such a trust building experience. Like it might be a little bit uncomfortable because you have that like, oh my God, you're seeing me right now. Like you can have that kind of sensation where it's like, wow, like I didn't know that like other people were aware of this. But when it happens with someone that you're genuinely close with and with someone that is safe, it is such a powerful community building tool. And learning to accept or consider, even not even accept, consider those reflections that are offered to us from those that we're close with is one of the most important lessons and steps in community building. And Spirit is just noting that like we're coming into an era of being able to be in more community because so many of us have done inner work that gives us a foundation of knowing who we are and knowing when we need to take a step back and when we need to have some time to ourselves to process, which we didn't know that that was an option for so long, right? But having that knowing now and then moving into this step of being really gentle mirrors for each other is the beginning of us being able to interact with unity consciousness and creating communities in person that are like more lasting and more stable. So Spirit's noting that like a lot of us are making different types of friends and friends in person that are genuinely like the types of friends that we want to have. And that for so many of us, like making good friendships over the last several years has been like a pain point. And we're sort of like taking the pressure off of that pain point because we've experienced that sensation long enough and done the inner work long enough that it's like we're ready to transmute some of that into sustainable, genuinely supportive relationships.
Amen. Men.
Wow. That was like sink after
Amen.
sink after sink.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm glad
Absolutely.
that
That is
resonated.
100% resonates right now. It's incredible. Thank you. Thank you,
Yeah.
Spirit.
Spirit just did the, like, you know, the giggle emoji where it's like put the hands over the mouth and like eyes closed. Spirit just did that.
Oh
It's
my
funny,
God.
Spirit oftentimes will like not in a creepy way, but Spirit is oftentimes like faceless, and when there's like a sense of wanting to convey like a human emotion, Spirit oftentimes uses emojis.
I
And I
love
think
that.
it's so funny
That's
because
perfect.
it's such a like recent human thing, but it's like there's like this delight in being able to use characters that aren't just words, that have this like it's almost like memification. Like Spirit is all about memification.
Incredible.
Love that. It's kind of like tarot in a way, in that tarot. Each card has like a specified meaning to it. So when you pull it and spirit's talking through it, you get an idea of what they're saying. But it's like taking that and simplifying it to an emoji sized icon. It's perfect. It just gives them a language to speak through.
Yeah, that's such a good point. Yeah, I mean, I actually, when I started talking about emoji, Spirit started showing me like hieroglyphs, like Egyptian hieroglyphs, and like how
Yeah.
much we have come back around to a place of being able to communicate in smaller, like faster, but with like more depth. Like that's what memes do. Like
Absolutely.
memes have this like subtext and this cultural understanding to them. And Spirit is even like giving me a nudge about how that's related to building community. It's like whittling down, or like oh, I can't remember the scientific word, but like when you boil something down to its essence, it's like in this super concentrated form. It's like we're learning these like concentrated forms of communication, which I think is what Spirit was talking about earlier. Yeah, I just got a tap for yes. Is what Spirit was talking about earlier, um when they were saying like being able to hand each other like little mirrors and like giving each other like little information about like who we are to one another.
Hmm.
It's like we're Spirit just showed like trading like little baseball cards that have like, yeah, like cultural context and like meaning to them in a way that like, oh, that's interesting. It goes like so much back to trusting the self. Like things that have deep meaning to you but like don't necessarily have meaning to someone else, like that kind of stuff I think is coming up more and more within friendships. Like the specificity of our interactions is like becoming so much stronger.
Awesome. Everything you said tonight absolutely resonates. So thank you so much.
Yeah,
Is
thank you.
there anything else you'd like to share with the group?
hmm. um yeah, Spirit is showing, that's hilarious, but no session goes without homework. So apparently that includes podcast interviews.
Amazing.
Love that.
um, yeah, I actually have to put that on my website because I have never had a client get irritated with me for giving them homework, but I'm like, Spirit's gonna give you homework and it's gonna be coming through my mouth. So, um, Spirit is wanting us to, okay, apparently we're doing this like guided journey style for a hot second. Um and I think this is actually a Deepak Chopra. I think I came across this as a Deepak Chopra like exercise, but um because we're really working on connection, and understanding that every cellular interaction in our body affects everything. Like we're so interconnected that there's ripple effects for everything that we do, and that's a positive thing. Like that's really powerful. There's like an encouragement, like don't be afraid of that. Like realize that like the personal work that you do has so much effect because we are so connected. I think sometimes people get worried about like I'm not doing enough, and like the personal work that you're doing is so important and is so enough. The exercise is to imagine taking a breath that is very far away. The air is coming from a very far away point, and you imagine that breath coming in across miles and miles and miles away, and it fills up your lungs all the way from the bottom of your diaphragm to the top. And then as you exhale that air out, you're sending that air all the way back to that far away space. And realizing that quite literally the air that we breathe comes from the oxygen of the entire planet. And using that imaginal exercise as a way to understand how supported and connected we are, even by energies and entities that we don't have mental space contact with. Yeah, that feels juicy.
Yeah, I was
Like,
lost in it for a
thanks for
minute.
that.
Whoa.
Yeah, I took a real deep breath. That was great. Okay, well, where can people reach you? Where can they find you? Tell them your website, your socials.
Yeah. So on Instagram, I'm at WelissaMilliams. So it's Melissa Williams, but the first two letters switched. So WelissaMilliams. And that is also my website. It is WelissaMilliams.com. And you can see the first four images of the art project that we talked about on that, along with a little working artist statement that changes regularly because this project is in progress. And that's also where you can book readings with me. I have a few different options there that I think are sweet. If you want to do like a single question written reading, I give you a response within 48 hours. And then I also have 60-minute readings that I think of as expanding and exploring. I have 20-minute readings that I call boost and pivot sessions. And then I have 30-minute readings specifically for intuitive ability coaching that are, the cosmic cheerleader vibe that we mentioned.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for taking your time out tonight to hang out with us. We hope to see you at a Hot Alien Summer Camp in 2024.
Yes.
Yeah, I can't wait to meet you in person and be all together in our community that we're building together. So thank you so much again.
Yeah, thank you guys. This was like such a nice little breath of fresh air.
From
Absolutely.
miles away.
From
From
miles and miles away.
Literally, yes.
Yeah.
The heart knows no distance. Oh, Melissa, is there someone that you would like to hear on interviewing aliens that you can think of?
Ooh, yeah, I would love to hear from Moon Mama from Kinsey.
Ooh,
Okay.
Kinsey.
I think we can make that happen.
Yeah, I think we know somebody that could make that happen. That's perfect.
Also, I
Awesome.
just
Well,
want to
thanks,
say,
everybody. Don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions. Thank you, Melissa, and thank you, Jeff. We'll talk to you guys next time.
Bye bye.
Love you.